Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Max, Chief Evangelist over here at Hapily. I'm going to be showing you today how to actually create event registration pages inside of HubSpot using Event Hapily. It's pretty simple. There's two different methods that we're going to walk through, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm inside HubSpot right now, and currently I'm looking at my events inside of my event objects here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go just start by creating an event that I have coming up. So I'll go ahead and start this event record, and I'll just call this the event of the century. I'll give it a description. This is one epic event to rule them all. And then you have this event page body content. Now, the reason this is important for building registration pages is that this description will show on a couple of the different modules that we have, like on our listing module and sort of like the header module. And it's meant to be just like a one sentence simple description of an event. The event body page content will actually show like on the actual landing page itself where you're actually registering somebody. You can make it really kind of show wherever you want, but the reason we do this like separate body content thing is so you can do rich text instead of just one little like single sentence description, right? So I can just say this event is gonna be great, right? And then I can even do some cool stuff with like some bulleted lists. There will be milkshakes. There will be vampires, right? And I can do some fun stuff where I select it, make it bold, italicize, whatever you want to do. It's just much better way of giving some information around the event than like just a single sentence description up here. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to choose a start date. I can also select the time. So we'll say my event starts at 10 in the morning, and we'll say it ends the same day at, I don't know, 11 o'clock. Cool. I can then create a registrant limit if I want. So if I only want a certain amount of people to be able to sign up for the event, I can put that in here. Now, this is important for registration pages because when you're using our CMS modules for the registration form on your HubSpot landing pages or website pages, whatever you choose to put it on, what'll happen is if you enable the feature for enforcing a registration limit, it will actually look and see how many people have signed up for the event. And if the amount of people that have already signed up for the event exceeds whatever this registration limit is, and it does that by counting how many registrant records there are associated to the event, what it'll do is it'll actually swap the form out with a rich text module or a form that you can use for like a wait list, which is pretty cool. You know, we're just going to keep it simple for now. So we'll go ahead and give it a venue. We'll call this Laser Quest. I don't know. That's a popular laser place from when I was a kid. If you grew up in the North Shore, Massachusetts, if you know, you know. We'll just call this 123 Main Street, Beverly, Massachusetts, 12345 in USA. Right. And if I wanted to add like, you know, some sort of like event type or tag or topic or something, I can do that. Think of tags as a way to just kind of like organize your events. Topics will actually show on listing pages, right? I'm also going to set a check-in pin if I want to do QR code scanning, and then we'll go ahead and publish the event, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create this event. Now, we have our event here, okay? Now, I want you to kind of watch the way I've set up my event pages. I have this card that I created up here called Event Hapily Dynamic Pages and Forms. What this is doing ideally is this is going through a workflow, and we, you know, create these workflows for you. I'm going to go pop into one of them really quick, really right here so you can see it. We build these workflows for you that you can kind of set up however you want. So I have this Event Hapily new event created. It comes pretty like basic at the beginning where it's just kind of like splitting your events based on the type of event that you're doing. You can modify this, you can delete it, you can change it, you can edit it, you can do whatever you want. But one of the things that I'm doing is I'm auto setting some of these things like the registration form, a featured image, an in-person check-in page, and a registration page. And what I'm doing, since I've set up dynamic registration pages, which is something that you can do when you have Content Hub Pro, is I've built a dynamic page based on the event record, and I'm pasting in the URL to that page. And then I've chosen to use the record ID as the slug at the end of that URL, which is like the last thing that comes in the URL. And what that tells a dynamic page in HubSpot is which event do you want to pull information in from, or which object really in HubSpot do you want to pull information in from to populate what's on the page. So I'm going to show you how those pages are actually set up, and this will make a lot more sense when you actually see that. All right. So right now it's saying, hey, take the registration page for the event, set it to this URL / whatever the unique ID is for the record. So if I come back to my record, we should see this information updated unless HubSpot's developer portals are running slow today. So I'm going to go to HubSpot events, the event of the century, and boom, we can see that. So what's really cool about this method, and again, you can set this up if you want to, you don't have to. I just find it like really, really convenient. I don't want to have to build new registration pages every single time I create an event. Some of you might, and I'll show you how to do that manually in a second. But it's really convenient that I can just come into here, click on registration page, and this page is already all done for me. So we can see all the information I put in on there. Right? I can also see the rich text module right here, and then we can see this registration form. This is something you have to configure in HubSpot. It's really easy. I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to go and edit this page. This is using the Event Hapily template that you get when you install Event Hapily. Keep in mind, you can use any template you want. You can use a template from your own theme if you already have one inside of HubSpot. You can even take this one and totally customize it in the theme editor. So swap out your logo, your colors, your fonts, and really make it kind of in line with your brand. And just to kind of show you that real quick, why don't I just quickly go, I'll try to change the template here. So we'll say use different template, and I'm going to come into like the theme selector. So we give you this Event Hapily HubSpot CMS theme, and inside of there, you get a whole bunch of pages, right? Right now I'm working with the event registration template, but we've got stuff for event listings, check-in pages, all this cool stuff. We'll cover in another video, but event registration is the one that I'm working with, right? So I'm going to come out of here just so I don't change that. And I'm going to come back to edit this page. If I am in a situation where I'm running a ton of events and I don't want to manually build a registration page for all these different events, this is something you might want to do. Now, keep in mind, you have to have Content Hub Pro for this, okay? Because we're utilizing a feature native to HubSpot called dynamic content. Dynamic content basically means you build a HubSpot CMS page. There's a bunch of modules on there that'll know to show different information from a specific record, either in a HubDB table or a custom object inside of HubSpot. And what you can do is you set the page to be able to be dynamic. All right. So these modules that are looking to pull information from an object, which all of ours are trying to do, okay, know to do that, right? So the way you do this is when you've built your page, you go to settings, you choose a URL, like a base URL that this is going to sit at, and then you come down to advanced and you change the data source to happily event. You can create, and there are use cases for dynamic pages for all the different objects that Event Hapily puts into your portal. Just as I'm doing a registration page for an event, I can do dynamic registration pages for sessions as well. On top of that, there are even use cases for building dynamic pages off of registrant objects. We'll cover that in another video, but there's some really neat use cases around that. What we did here is, again, we came back, we went into advanced, we set it to the happily event, and then we said the dynamic page slug, which is what shows up at the end of the URL, we're going to set it to the record ID. You can create other unique properties on the event record and use a different unique property for the page slug if you want to. So maybe you want to create like a URL name for the event where it's like best-event-ever, right? Maybe you don't want to use record ID, but you have to use some other unique identifier on the record. So if you go and build a property on your event record, just make sure you set it to be a unique value, and you should be able to use it as a dynamic page slug if you don't want to use the record ID. Now, what I did is I came into here and I made the dynamic page title, the event name, the meta description, just the description of the event. The featured image is just the featured image of the event. I didn't really do anything with canonical URL, sue me, and that's fine. So you set this up and you should be able to do the same thing that I did, where it goes to a web page and then it adds this slug at the end, and then it knows which information to pull in. Okay. So again, if you're in the camp of, we run so many events and I hate having to create a new landing page, a new form, a new list, a new this, a new that. When you're really just cloning something and just like changing one or two words, like maybe you have sort of like a template you use for your registration pages, dynamic content is really great to use. Okay. And all of our modules, right? All these little chunks, right? This header, this section over here that shows the rich text, this form, all of this stuff, it'll work on dynamic pages. Let's pretend for a second you're actually just building a page from scratch though, and you don't actually want to do the whole dynamic content thing, okay? This is how you would go build the event from scratch, or the registration page from scratch. like starting from here, we created our event. How do I go, build a landing page that's going to sign someone up for this event and create a registrant for this event? Okay, it's pretty simple. We're going to go to content. We're going to go to either website pages or landing pages. I'm just doing this in landing pages because this developer account has all of its website pages hooked up. So I'm going to hit create. I'm going to choose from, our theme here. Okay, but like again, you can take these modules and put them on your own theme, okay? But this is pre-built, so I'm just going to keep it easy, right? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on each one of these modules, and over here where it says Hapily Event, I'm going to select the event that I just created, right? The event of the century, and you'll see this will change. Now, for these like one-off bespoke landing pages, you could totally just like build this without any of these other modules being connected back to the event. The benefit, though, is that if you go and edit the event, like let's say I change the address, this will automatically update. You don't have to worry about coming back to the actual CMS editor to change it. So if you want to just be able to change it from the CRM record, that's the benefit of using these modules here, right? So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go select the event of the century. Great. If I go and change this property on the CRM record for the event, it'll change here. Finally, the most important part, I'm going to come in and select this form. I'm going to choose which form that I want to use to register people for. I highly recommend using this dynamic registration form that we pre-install on your portal when you install Event Hapily. Okay. Now, you can use other forms. You just want to make sure a couple of things are set up properly. One, actually, we'll go take a look at this and I'll show you here. Here we go. So a couple of things, if you're going to use a separate form, you want to at least have the event registration trigger or the session registration trigger as a hidden field on the form and have it be empty. A couple other things, you want to go into your options, all right, and come down here and make sure always create contact for new email address is turned on. For these forms that we install in your portal, they're automatically turned on. The reason you need this on is because HubSpot forms out of the box are not made for event registration. Because what they do is if someone fills out a form multiple times from the same computer, they're just going to overwrite that contact record instead of creating new ones. That happens a lot with event registrations because people sign themselves up and then a bunch of their friends up as well. So anytime you're using a form to do any kind of event registration, whether it's with Event Hapily or you're just trying to hack it together on your own, pro tip, always turn this on. Okay. And then the last thing you're going to want to do is go to Style and Preview and make sure that the form is set as a raw HTML form. The reason you need it set as a raw HTML form, okay, is our form module, one, is going to inherit the styles from your style sheet already. So it's going to look like your forms. Two, there is like a bunch of funky like JavaScript and like crazy custom coding that we do in this module to get the form to do things like multi-person registration, multi-session registration, being able to like add additional registrants, being able to like swap the form out with a rich text module or another form if you want to wait list or like tell people they can't sign up because it's full. It needs to be set as a raw HTML. Otherwise, that will interfere with all the other special code that we have on that module getting it to work. Let's come out of here. Let's go back to the page editor, right? So what you just need to do is you need to go to your form and make sure you're selecting a specific event and then hit apply changes. Now this page knows if someone fills the form out, I need to register them for this specific event. When you're setting these modules up to be on a dynamic page where it's just one page and then depending on the URL, it'll show a different information for a different event and register people for a different event, you just don't select any event in here. But when you're just building a one-off special snowflake, totally unique, standalone registration page manually for an event that you're doing, you would select which event you want to sign somebody up for, okay? That's the basics of that. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to test it to make sure it works. So we'll just call this like event of the century. I can't spell century. Sign up, right? And then I'm going to go to settings here. I'm going to give it a page title, event of the century. All right. This is just like any other landing page in HubSpot, guys. The big difference is that you're using our module to make sure someone actually gets registered for the event. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this and we're going to test it to make sure it works. So we've got our event of the century, right? There's our URL. I'm going to go ahead and do max Cohen, max it happily, register. If I come back into HubSpot and I go take a look in my CRM and I go to my events, what I should see is a registrant created, right? So you can see registered for the event of the century, contacts, max, contact registered for the event. So we register, we do two things. We create a registrant record, which is meant to be like that source of truth frozen in time that represents that person registering for that event at that moment. It'll also attach any other additional sessions they go to. You can set up workflows that'll pull other information from the form that they answer. So like t-shirt size, dietary restrictions, like whatever you want. You can get that data onto that record, but then we also associate the contacts directly. Now, what's even cooler is that I should be able to go and click in-person check-in here. This is another really sweet module that we have that will actually let you keep track of attendance, right? You can build these manually one by one, like I just showed you, like, build it for a specific event, or just build one page and just swap out which event it's using. Each time the event changes, you don't have to build additional pages for all of them, or you can set them up to use dynamically, right? Which is kind of like the other example that I showed you. But what's cool is if I come in here and hit check-in, I can check the guest in just like this. You'll see it say success in just a minute. Here we go. So when we come over here and hit refresh, and you can see that they're marked as attended to the event. And folks, that's how easy it is to create event registration pages in HubSpot. Whether you do them dynamically or you do them one by one individually, you have the flexibility to kind of do whatever you want. It is HubSpot, so it's very customizable. I would highly suggest that you look at a Content Hub Pro so you could do this really fancy dynamic content stuff and not have to build a page every single time. But, world's your oyster because it's leaning against the ultimate customization HubSpot. You can really do whatever you want. I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, let me know.